If you were to look at the map of someone's Camino journey, you'll notice that it's never the most direct route possible. There are two reasons for this. The first is that the point of this journey is not about the destination. We're not rushing to the resting place of St. James as soon as possible. It's not a race. We're not trying to set records for speed here. It's about the time you get to be present to yourself as you travel. It's about making space for hearing your own inner voice and desires, instead of being bombarded with all the pressures, expectations, and priorities that you've left behind. The second reason is that although some paths might be quicker, they may not be wiser. Like, they might get you there faster, but they're gonna lack the thing that you need the most to get you there: water. The Camino is a journey shaped by thirst. Our need for water and refreshment is often the decisive factor in the paths that we take or the places we choose to stop. And whether we've looked at it that way or not, our lives off the Camino are similar as well. Like, our lives are shaped by the places that we find water and refreshment, rest and meaning. Sometimes that deep well is like the relationships we treasure, or those passions and experiences when we feel truly alive. Sometimes it's water sources that aren't deep, or fresh, or safe. It's the stagnant swamp water of relationships with people who either can't or won't love you well. Or it's the filling your lives with empty calories of doom scrolling, series binging, or any number of ways we can lose ourselves when we feel parched. Our journey might be heading in the right direction, but it might also be taking us so far from a water source that we're struggling to keep going. There's this beautiful story in the Gospel of John about a moment when Jesus is journeying through Samaria and he decides to stop for water. He sends James and the other disciples on to get food while he takes a break at a well. In the ancient world, the job of fetching water fell to the women in the community to meet the needs of their families. So every morning, they would journey to the well together and fill up their buckets for the day. When Jesus stops at this well, however, it's noon, the hottest part of the day, the time when it is most likely to be deserted. The only reason you would come to the well at this time of day is if you weren't welcome with those who came in the morning. As Jesus sits there, a Samaritan woman approaches, and Jesus asks her to draw some water for him. She's shocked. In their culture, Jews would not drink from a Samaritan cup, and men would not talk to women in a situation like this. There was a seismic historical rift between the Samaritans and the Jews to the point of avoidance, so Jesus is breaking all the rules. She responds, "How could you ask that from me?" Then Jesus' response turns from the physical reality to the spiritual. "If you knew who was asking you for water, you would ask me and I would give you living water and you would never be parched again." To which she says, "Sir, please give me that water so that I won't have to keep coming back to this well." Now, this isn't a conversation about the practicalities of water management. It's more about how she can stop the feeling of disconnection and dissatisfaction that her thirst has brought her. Her life has become a mess of hurt and heartbreak, leaving her parched. And not for the thirst of water, but the thirst to be loved, which plays such a huge part in all of our journeys. I think if we were to take a step back and be able to see a map of our whole lives, we'd be able to see the twists and the turns that our story has taken because of our deep need for love. And when we get lost, we find ourselves stooping low and drinking from shallow streams and puddles because we can't find a life-giving source that we are crying out for. Love. Unconditional, unlimited, unrelenting love. She doesn't want to come back to the well because it's a hassle. She wants to stop coming back at noon to draw water alone. Whatever has happened, she now finds herself disconnected from her community. She's been shamed and isolated. And she doesn't want to feel that way anymore. Who does? And yet so many of us do. We know what it's like to experience isolation and loneliness. We know that sense of shame. We make choices to try and impress others, attract others, trying to convince them in the hope that they will love us. It's as if we're willing to accept love wherever we find it, as a temporary solution to a permanent problem. We keep coming back to the well. The same is true of our longing for love. Our need to be loved is not some broken or hurting part of us. Like with thirst, there is water. With hunger, there is food. And so maybe this longing for something like love that nothing in this world seems to satisfy is a clue that it can be met by something much greater. Many theologians over the last 2,000 years have hinted at this God-shaped void we all seem to possess, an imprint from a loving God when He created us in His likeness, and not necessarily in our appearance, but in the essence of who we are, our innermost self, our soul. Our longing for this void to be filled guides all of our lives. That is until we meet Him at the well. And instead of our journeys being defined by thirst, we become connected to the divine, a spring, an unending source of life and love.